Peace everybody, this is Ziggy the Iron King, back at you with another video. In today's video, I wanted to do it on my diet, on veganism and being plant-based and things of that nature. Because I think I talked about, my journey and me being an herbalist, me becoming an herbalist, and just how, herbs and like the whole holistic lifestyle has led me to on my entrepreneurship journey. And basically a lot of what my channel has become have been kind of like an outlet, or kind of like an outlet of like a verbal encapsulation of my journey in my life currently, and kind of like basically, keeping kind of like a visual diary in a lot of ways of where I'm at right now. So becoming vegan, I became vegan back in around April 2014. I'm pretty sure it was probably around March. As I remember, my oldest niece, her 7th birthday, it was around her 7th birthday. That was like when they had her birthday celebration back in 2014 in April. That was like my first time like being at like an outing, and a family outing, where after I became vegan. So and I just remember, of course, a lot of people like making fun of me and making jokes or whatever. Like, not like, not anything like mean or anything like that. But like, because especially at that time, 2014 was like a real strange time. I mean, not a strange time, but it was kind of like a shifting, because it was kind of like a shift in happiness, because it seemed like 2014, 2016 was like a really, really big shift in a lot of black people, I feel, on like a mainstream, or when I say mainstream, you know what I mean, like more on a, like it was more common to find more black, quote unquote black, or melanated vegans, now in this day and time. And obviously the world in general has become a lot more vegan friendly. Even like your major food chains and fast food restaurants have plant-based burgers or whatever. But I remember my niece, she had her 7th birthday around that time, and that was like my first time like being at a family outing where where I became vegan. It was like, I remember it was at my aunt's house, and we went and got some cantaloupe. I think one of my uncles or somebody went and I went with them and got some cantaloupes and some water, a jug of water and stuff like that. And it was like, that was like, where everybody knew, like, I'm vegan now. And it's like, I think at that point, everybody knew, okay, he's real serious about this. So, to take you back, probably like around 2012, 2013, I was really, really getting into like a lot of the Black thought movement, or like the Black conscious community, if you will, the Black conscious movement, on YouTube and stuff like that. Listening to Umar Johnson, listening to Um, I started coming across like Dr. Sabi videos and Dr. Africa videos and Minister Inky and Dr. Ali Muhammad. Even like all the way back to like 2010 and 11, I was really getting more and more into learning like holistic health and learning about, because I was really getting into like learning what cerebral palsy is and a lot of different alternative medicines. So I was kind of like back like in 2010, 2011, 2012, like I didn't really think about veganism. I really didn't really know so many people that was vegan. But once I started getting deeper into like the conscious community and started studying people like Minister Inky and Dr. Africa and Dr. Ali Muhammad, I started to see like, wow, like, this thing is attainable. And I started to learn, and most of them were saying like, if you wanna reverse a disease, no matter what it is, you gotta give up meat. Basically, most of them were saying that you gotta give up meat. You gotta, and I was learning more and more about herbs and stuff like that. So I just started getting hooked and studying and studying and studying. And so I was like, okay, eventually I'm gonna have to do this. Like, I'm dealing with a lot of issues that I'm dealing with. Okay, like, if I want to do this, you know what I'm saying, then I gotta do this. So it was at least, probably had to be maybe even a little bit less than a year, or maybe it might have been over a year, but I was watching these videos and following these people, and then I said in my mind, like, okay, eventually I gotta do this. So I decided in 2014, like, I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Like, I started going to like Asian markets. I was already going to like herb shops and stuff for years at that point. But I started going to like Asian markets and stuff like that, and then going to different farmers markets. And I started to discover more foods out there. Like, as strange as it may sound, and this is a lot of the advice that I give to people that like sincerely want to become vegan. I tell them the best way to transition to veganism or being plant-based or whatever is start to go to these different farmers markets. Start to go to these different Asian markets, these Caribbean markets, all these international markets. If you can find an international market, go there. If you can find like a farmers market, a real live farmers market, I'm talking about like a real live, where the people that run it are, of a different nationality, not just like one of these like that look like flea markets. I'm talking about real life farmers markets. So going to these markets, started going to like these Asian markets. Like, there's one market not too far from me. I started going in, like just going through there, like, okay, I never heard of this fruit. I never heard of this food. I never heard of that fruit. I never heard of this vegetable and this. And you realize that, especially after I took that leap and became vegan, I started to really discover different foods that was quite frankly was probably right in front of me the whole time, But it's just that a lot of times we just stick to the same, which is shows another like how I guess I don't want to say mind control, because I don't want to say that like every person that eats meat is under mind control, but just marketing in general. How, okay, most of us that eat meat, we stick to the same probably 4 or 5 different animals or types of animals. Like, pork, people that eat pork people that eat like chicken and stuff like that, people that eat chicken, turkey, you know, and stuff like that. So it's like a lot of people eat like the same thing, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to the animal products, same couple of animal products, animal species or whatever. Probably just saying less than a handful. But even like back in like 2007, 2008, you know, I started to really I don't know, this would kind of like go into like a different, I guess would be a different topic in and of itself, you know, if I wanted to go into it. But like back in like 2007, 2008, I started like reading the Bible and stuff like that, and from a different lens. I came across like, you know, like Hebrew Israelites on TV and stuff like that, and I started like to study the Bible and stuff like that, and watch a lot of their videos and stuff like that, and like they talked about like the dietary laws and stuff like that. So when I started to study that stuff, it made me, I got off of, I stopped eating seafood and I stopped eating like pork. So I gave that up like in 2007, 2008. And so from a dietary standpoint, I think it forced me to be able to have a certain type of discipline. You know what I mean? And like, so like when I became vegan, it was like, I was already kind of like used to people questioning me in a sense. Like, you know how it is in a black family. It's like, they'll look down on, they'll not gonna say look down on you, but they'll make fun of you if you don't eat the same food that you got. Kind of like a little slave mentality, like we're like, oh, you think, I mean, I'm not saying it's all the way the case all the way around, but it's kind of like, okay, like, oh, well, you think you're better than me because you don't eat this and that, you know what I mean? So I'm not saying that's necessarily where some of them might be getting at. Maybe it is, but me like deciding not to eat pork and seafood anymore kind of like already got me to that where they're like, okay, like, if I could do this and stick with it, then I could go to that level. But it took almost 7 years for me to even get to get all the way to where, you know, to the veganism point. But even in 2008, you know, I wasn't even thinking about veganism then. I was just thinking like, okay, God said don't eat this and that. Well, I'm not going to eat this and that. You know what I mean? And now, knowing what I know from a scientific level, why you shouldn't eat this and that. It says in a lot of those religious texts, don't eat this, and that. And if you are of those religious persuasions, you know, if you have enough faith and belief in those particular schools of thought, or, you know what I mean, spirituality, subscriptions of spirituality, you don't need like a biological explanation as to why you shouldn't eat that and this and that. But now, you know, even, you know, a lot of it taking me 5, 6, 7 years later. Okay, yeah, now I see why you don't eat this and that. Yeah, because, you know, they're scavengers and this and that. But also, you know, and their purpose, you know, but a lot of them contain a lot of the worms, the viruses, the cancers and stuff like that we're supposedly trying to avoid. You know what I mean? So One day I want to go through like my book collection and break it down. Not break them down, but like just kind of like give like a brief summary of each book that led me to where I'm at as far as veganism, even herbalism. But I think the best book that I could recommend when it comes to veganism would be Dr. Africa's African Holistic Health book. This right here. This book is a classic. This book is a must-have. Whether you subscribe to Dr. Africa's schools of thought, or whether you subscribe to Dr. Sabi's schools of thought, whether you subscribe to Dr. Morse's school of thought, whether you subscribe to whoever's schools of thought, I think, especially if you're melanated, if you're indigenous, like I am, or if you are like very Afrocentric, I would recommend Dr. Lalela Africa's African Holistic Health book, because he goes over the mental aspects of our diet, and he goes over why to go towards veganism, the astrological. It goes over crystals. It goes over a little bit of religion. It goes over just about anything that you can that you could. The psychological aspect of it goes over just about anything. This book, when I was really working on becoming vegan, like when I turned vegan and I decided I was gonna give up meat or whatever, I'm gonna be honest with you. I knew that I wanted to do it, but at the time I was like, okay, I didn't really think I was gonna actually get to it. But once I did it, I didn't turn back. And I think a lot of it was this book, because this book, just reading about the animals and what they go through, and a lot of people that turn to veganism, they do it because of disease, whether they themselves, like me with cerebral palsy, was one of the reasons for me, and the other stuff that I was dealing with, whether it's diseases, you know what I'm saying, whether it's some that you're dealing with, whether it's diseases that other people has dealt with or are dealing with, those animals have those same diseases. So you got cancer, or somebody in your family got cancer, or that animal had cancer that you eat, or even just the environment those animals are raised in. So, this really helped me. So, you know what I mean? But me being vegan or plant-based, it's something that I'm proud of, and it doesn't make me better than anybody else. You know what I mean? Just like if someone works out, or they're like really big into fitness, it might mean that they have more discipline in one area in their life than you do. You know what I mean? But it doesn't necessarily make them better than you. So, but it means a lot to me. And like I said, vegan, it's a buzzword, and it's like, kind of the hip thing. And a lot of people don't subscribe to necessarily the word veganism, but I use that term to where people know where I'm getting at. Because, you know what I mean? I know that I've been where those people were. Like, it was a gradual process. When I became vegan, I became vegan, and I didn't look back. You know, but at the same time, a lot of my journey into veganism, a lot of my journey into veganism, a lot of my journey into veganism, a lot of my journey into veganism kind of led me to it led me deeper in the rabbit hole, I guess, when it comes to this holistic health. And I want to go even further into it. But like I've been to, you know, like I said, like I'm from DC. I grew up off seafood. So it's like, you know, people looking at you crazy, like, oh, you don't eat seafood no more? Or you still eat fish, don't you? I'm like, nah. You know, and it's like, a lot of vegans get mad because they had to explain it. You know, I don't necessarily get mad, but I'm like, nigga, didn't I say I don't eat, I don't eat no meat, you know what I'm saying? And fish is meat, you know what I'm saying? I was eating a lot of fish before I became vegan. You know what I mean? The first time I had filet mignon in my life was probably a year or maybe even a couple of months before I became vegan. Because one of my coworkers, you know, you know, nobody in my family is rich. I never had filet mignon in my life. I only seen it on TV and I heard it on TV and in rap songs and stuff like that. But I never knew nobody who had filet mignon. And one of my coworkers, my lead, God rest his soul, he gave me some filet mignon before I became vegan. So. You know what I mean? And I was eating lamb heavy, especially like when I was learning, after I learned about like Hebrew Israelites and stuff like that. It was like, okay, well, I don't eat this meat, I don't eat that meat, well, I'm going to eat lamb. And then after I became vegan, it was like, okay, even though I don't necessarily agree, Dr. Sabi may know what he's talking about, but I even saw what he was saying, like, okay, lamb is even worse than pork. But, you know, if you like, you know, Hebrew Israelite or whatever, or a Muslim, you know, nothing is worse than pork. So, but, yeah, so I was eating stuff like that before. You know what I mean? I was eating like mackerel and stuff like that, you know, before I became vegan. But yeah, so I haven't really looked back, but it's, you know, I want to go even further with it. Sometimes I become a raw foodist, you know, where I don't eat any cooked food. Sometimes I'm like 90% raw, or like only thing I've been eating is potato chips. Like lately, like the only thing cooked that I eat is potato chips. And that's where I've kind of been at lately. And I'm about to stop eating those because that's a lot of starch. You know, because I'm about to go on this health journey. And like I said a couple of weeks ago, I'm going to be breaking down different herbs and stuff. I just ordered me some herbs and I'm really, really excited, you know, to start reviewing some stuff. You know what I mean? And breaking down some of this stuff. And it'll get me, it'll like force me to go and do a little bit more research, as if I don't already have enough on my plate with me on my work schedule and trying to learn how to create this content to the best of my ability and just working on doing that and running my business. But, you know, it'll be fun for me to break down some of this stuff. You know, I'm really, really excited about that. But, you know, I just decided like, you know, what I'm gonna do a video on. I decided like maybe like 30 minutes. I was thinking in my head like, should I break down soursop, or should I just go ahead and talk about my veganism journey? In March or April, it'll be my 8th year into veganism. So I'm sure I'll probably want to do a another video going even deeper on my veganism journey.